you for the next little video here as we're going through Gunther Anders' World as Phantom and as Matrix. So we're into section 4 of chapter 1. Last time we had spoken somewhat about how the entrance of the television into the home and its movement into the place of the heart, the focus of the home, it has a sort of centrifugal effect on the life of the family. And I would say this dynamic extends beyond the family to society at large. Because what happens there in that space is, even though there is a sort of superficial sharing of the encounter of the television or the radio or what have you, everyone is effectively split into their own world. Each of them is experiencing the television in their own terms. In section 4, he builds upon the consequences of this, moving in a slightly different direction. He notes that in addition to this sort of social fragmentation which occurs in the light of broadcast media, you have quite directly an installation of passivity in those that are watching or are listening. And this actually becomes almost more palpable when more than one person is engaging the media at the same time. What's happening, he contends, is that the television or the radio, in fact, begins to speak for us, on our behalf, as it were. Certainly this seems to be obviously the case when you talk about news media, and you can sort of conjure up the notion of Walter Cronkite or some sort of archetypally responsible journalist or public figure speaking out about this or that world event, and in doing so, almost stepping into the role of announcing your interest for you. And in fact, this has become that much more egregious in contemporary news media, regardless of where you land on the so-called political spectrum. You're going to find it difficult to tune into such a program without being told how you're supposed to understand whatever it is they're discussing. So it's not simply the relay of events, it's their interpretation, which is then offered up on the part of the program. And what's transpiring then is an atrophy of speech and of thought, and on multiple levels. For one, there's this sort of very concrete level, which had already been discussed in the previous section, where because we're watching television, or we're all sitting at the bar watching the game, or what have you, we're no longer speaking with each other. There's a dramatic attenuation of the engagement of the people in our immediate vicinity. But additionally, we are not actively speaking, and the consequence is an atrophy, a diminution, a lessening of our own capacity to speak. It does not obviously mean literally, but failure to exercise this sort of conversational aptitude, function, capacity, wherewithal, leads in time to us becoming increasingly passive. And then there are consequences in terms of a coarsening of language itself, and the developments which sort of work in a similar way can be seen in the sense of our culture becoming increasingly ideographic in its sensibility, the rise of the moon or what have you, where an image replaces a paragraph. And of course there are times when it's appropriate, but the meme, we can say, serves a very sort of unfortunate function with reference to the kinds of intellectual shorthand that is conducive, or to which it conducive. We may add additionally, right, that not just in terms of thought, but not just in terms of speech, but also thought, because you're being programmed effectively with performance and what have you. You again are not exercising your own autonomy. So this overall tendency is obviously quite troubling, but we can see what's happening here. We can see a lessening, again, I keep coming back to the word of diminish or diminishing of our fully human being. And now Anders takes this in this section one step further and notes that what's actually occurring is that we are being effectively reframed as minors and subordinates. Because the television is speaking for us, we enter into subordination with regard to the power dynamic being engaged here. And that's true with respect to the complete sort of social matrix even. And it's even in a sense true of those at the upper sort of echelons of this arrangement, because often they are simply parroting a certain set of terms out of ideological presupposition rather than genuine thought. So effectively, Section 4 builds on and enumerates in greater granularity some of what is announced in Section 3, where we look at how broadcast media transforms our space and our relationship to it, and our relationship to life, family life, and here also public life, where, we are being displaced as agents of public life and becoming increasingly simply audience members. In the next section, Section 5, sort of takes this to the next sort of phenomenological deepening, if you will, and discusses how we now have an altered relationship with events and with the world, which I mentioned, I think, in the first video, right? That all of this is leading or works in tandem with a transformation of our relationship with the world or worldness. And the denominator through the course here is a lessening of our freedom. So there you have it for today, sort of a briefer section and just a somewhat lengthy recording. Again, I hope it was sort of stimulating, and to recap, the notion here is that by relying on, there's an additional point. We're going to wrap it up. There is a point which I should mention along with this, is that part of how this operates is by, and this is so ahead of its time, right? It's so prescient in terms of what happens with our current junction, right? Part of the way that the media broadcast is able to exercise such an influence on our subjectivity is that it's a very effective distraction, so that we no longer have to actually sit with ourselves or with the other people in the room. And that's kind of the rub, right? So here, the space of silence between two individuals is diminished, and this sort of implicit third person comes into the equation. So you have a third person sense here. Okay, I was breaking up for a second, so I didn't know how much you got of that. I may have to sort of reshoot a good deal of this. But to recap that point, and I apologize for redundancy, they use the term horror vacui as a fear of the vacuum. So just being confronted with your own self without distraction or with other people can be discomforting to the contemporary individual because of the immense array of distractions with which we are bombarded. And it's simply another manner in which television, radio, and now the internet and related forms of entertainment are transforming our relationship with the world. So I will leave it there, sort of a transitional video, and we'll get into kind of the phenomenological, the existential meat and bones of Section 5, where we talk about the nature of the event. Alright, thanks guys, and I'll catch you on the flip.